utilization ratio to skyrocket. And this is infuriating. You can find yourself just with the interest rates alone overdrawing that account. And then even if you paid it down inside of the billing cycle, it does reflect that you went over your limit at least once in the last year. Spending on these 250 and $500 cards, uh, when you're spending 50% of that limit, it signals the credit bureaus that your user uh, status is a high risk borrower because using 50% of their available credit is a red flag for them. This causes the credit score to constantly fluctuate and is held hostage by a single metric that seems impossible to control. And it feels like the catch 22. To get a higher limit, you need to show responsible use. But using the cards that you have actively punishes your credit score. It's a cycle of denials for the financial tools that you know you deserve. But what if there were ways to break that cycle? Instead of just hoping for the best, you can build a system. And the guide that we're going to give you today provides a simple, repeatable 7-day plan. And this plan is designed to target the best cards for an increase and systematically removes every objection a bank could even have. Following this plan can result in a massive credit line increase, potentially taking a card from a low limit like 250, $500 to over $15,000 without a single inquiry hitting your credit report in some situations. But some hard inquiries do occur depending on where you're going. This will cause your credit score to shoot upward because every time you get a hard hit, even though your credit limit will cause your credit score to go up, the hard hit will make your credit score go down 1 point for every inquiry that occurs. If your utilization is plummeting, the rejection letters will stop. This is the exact plan, day by day, step by step, to break out of the low limit trap for good. Before jumping into the day to day plan, though, it's crucial to understand exactly why this strategy is so effective. It all comes down to dismantling the single most misunderstood factor in all of the credit uh, reports is credit utilization. A whopping 30% of your FICO score is determined by this one metric. It's the second biggest factor right after payment history, which accounts for about 35%. So getting this right isn't just a suggestion, it's a game changer. Imagine your total available credit is a large bucket. Every dollar that you spend on your credit cards is like adding a little bit of water into those buckets. Your credit utilization is simply the percentage of the bucket that is full. If you have low credit limits, you've basically been handed a tiny sand pail, a few splashes of water, your weekly groceries, gas for the car, that one concert ticket you bought, and suddenly your little pail is almost overflowing. So let's put some real numbers on this. Say you have one credit card with, say, $2,000 limit on it. You spend a normal $800 on it over the course of a month. Even if you plan to pay that $800 off in full when the bill comes in, your credit card issuer reports that balance to the credit bureau once a month, usually on your statement closing date. When they do, the bureaus don't see a responsible person who pays their bills. They see a simple code calculation. 800 divided by 2000 equals 40% utilization. A lender, a person who using 40% of their available credit, is going to look at that person like they might be in financial distress. They look risky. Ideally, you want your utilization to be under 30%. But the real sweet spot where your score truly begins to soar is when your credit is under 10%. Now, imagine that same exact spending, that same $800, but on a card with, say, $15,000 limit. What's the math now? An $800 card divided by $15,000 is just over 5% utilization. You spent the exact same amount of money, but your entire profile has transformed. You've gone from looking like a high risk borrower to looking like an absolute professional at managing credit. This is why a higher credit limit is one of the most powerful tools for boosting your credit score. It gives you a bigger bucket. So your normal everyday expenses, spending on whatever it is that you're trying to spend, looks like a drop in the bucket of an ocean instead of tidal waves of small payments on an even smaller card. So, this 7-day plan that we're going to give you isn't just about asking for more credit, it's about strategically building your financial profile to prove to the banks that you don't just deserve a bigger budget, you've already earned it. Now, this plan isn't magic. There's no schemes here, no tricks, nothing to that effect. It is just a calculated, methodical approach. We're going to spend 1 week meticulously curating your financial data points to make you look like a perfect low risk, high value customer that banks are actively searching for. Their automated systems are designed to find people exactly like you. We just need to send all the right signals. So here's the game plan for the next week. First, on day one and quite possibly day two, you'll need to do some homework. This is the foundation of the entire plan. If you have been following some of the plans that I've been giving you about curating your budget for shutdowns, curating your budgets for unemployment, curating your budgets for emergency fund access, you should have a lot of this information gathered. Steven says, "I like the bigger bucket." Me too, because nothing like having a $50,000 credit card in your back pocket to get whatever the hell you need, right? It's nothing like having a larger credit limit in your back pocket than your annual salary in some situations. That it allows you to do all kinds of things. For example, if you had a $50,000 credit card, 10% is $5,000. A lot of people's phone bill is usually around $100 a month. That means that $1,200 a year. Usually, depending on where you live, some people, at least their water bill and sometimes their gas bill combined is under $100 a month, which is also together $1,200, which is $2,400. Now, depending on how they utilize their electric bill. That might be $200 a month over the course of 12 months, which would be another $2,400 a month. You could systematically put $5,000 on your $50,000 credit card, pay all of your utilities, all of your basic utilities for the next 12 months on that one credit card and ride that 10%, showing good payment history, keeping the limits low, but not having to worry about paying these bills. They're already paid for the rest of the year, right? You also have that opportunity if you were trying to ride that wave of 10% and you decide, your car insurance might be $1,100 every 6 months, and you put that $1,100 on your credit card, and then since you're not paying your utility bills every month anymore because they're paid up for the whole year, you take that payment along with your what would have been car insurance payment, and you're throwing that down on the credit card to pay down your car insurance all at once every 6 months. Now you're not having to worry about your car insurance. When you start having larger credit limits, you start having the ability to juggle bare necessities more effectively. Because if your car insurance is covered, your phone, your lights, your gas, your water bill is covered. If you have a post office box, that's covered for the year. If all of your semi-annual and monthly bills are covered for the entire season, for the entire year, the only thing you got to worry about now is paying your rent. If you're one of those individuals that has the capabilities of paying your rent online with your debit or credit card, you can now start putting money on your mortgage, or not your mortgage, but your rent, charging it to the card, and then making the extra payments onto the card, which then allows you to take your entire paycheck related to those bills, put it directly on the card, overpay on the card, pay the card down, and then towards the end of the month, the billing cycle rolls over with a very low, if not no balance at all. But we're going to get into that as we continue. So, this bigger picture of having a bigger credit limit is a phenomenal thing for us to do. But the first thing we want to start doing is we want to start doing some research, and we want to start getting a foundation for the entire plan. So you're going to pick the target credit cards that you want to utilize this with. You can do it with all of your credit cards, but you're going to do it with one credit card at a time because you don't want to apply for multiple credit increases inside of the same month, especially if each one of them is doing a hard hit. Now, for all the ones that are doing a soft pull, that's fine. But if any one of them does a hard pull, you should probably postpone the next one for another 6 months. You can do it once every 3 months, but it's less impactful on your credit score if you only had two hard hits a year. But if you did four hard hits a year, it's not gonna murder your credit score. It's just you're gonna have 4 points down every year that you do this, depending on how many cards that you have. But the cards that you want to start with is going to be the ones that you're targeting. You want to dig into the data where which banks that you have, and most importantly, update the single most critical piece of information that they use to judge your credit worthiness, which is your income. You need to be able to modify the income on your profile. So wherever your profile is, where it talks about what you do for a living, how much money you make, usually it's either going to be per month or per year. You want to adjust those numbers, seemingly making them higher, preferably telling the truth, but you know, making them higher by any means necessary. Not overly inflated, because at any point in time, if they challenge you to prove that income coming in, you have to have something damn close to what you thought or projected that you had, right? Next, on day 3 and day 4, and in some situations, day 5, you'll move into the strategic phase. And this is going to be where you actively manage spending and payments to engineer the perfect credit utilization ratio. You're not just going to hope for a low balance, you're going to build it. Then on day 6, this is going to be the day that you make that ask, armed with a perfectly prepared profile. You'll request a significant credit limit, increasing what you originally had, and then using the methods most likely to result in an instant soft pull approval. Start taking action on that upgrade. Finally, on day 7 is for a follow up, because if the automated system didn't grant the request, because typically when we start contacting some of these major industries, they typically have an automated system that goes through a lot of these things, and then they'll get back to you, right? And if they get back to you, sometimes it's an instant, sometimes it's not. Sometimes they mail you a letter of the response. Sometimes they don't. They might send it to you in an email. But once you get that response, if you don't like that response, that's when day 7 comes and you escalate the response. Day 7 is about using a specific script to talk to a real human and make your case, turning a potential denial, because typically the automated system will bounce back a no, and you turn that into a massive yes, right? So this is going to be the most important part of the week, because the work that you do over the next 48 hours will lay down the groundwork for everything else that follows. Now, If you're a very busy individual like Steven, you might want to do this on your days off. So this might not be a 7 day process in one week. This might be a 7 day process over the course of 7 weeks if you're only taking one day out the week to get it done. Either way it goes, if you're doing this for each one of your accounts, but only requesting one credit pull, one hard credit pull when necessary every 6 months, every soft credit pull that you can inquire on, you can get those. And any hard pulls, you recognize they're going to do a hard pull, they're going to tell you, and they're going to ask you if it's okay, and then you're going to tell them no, I'll wait. And if you've already gotten one hard pull in the last 2 months, 3 months, you want to wait a little bit, right? But anybody that's like, sure, we can do a soft pull, but you can ask, and we're going to be getting to that. So this is going to be about preparing the soil before you start planting any of the seeds. First and foremost, choose your target. You shouldn't do this with every card in your wallet the exact same way. That signals desperation. You need to be surgical. Pick one or two a year. You can do the payment process on all of them, but the requesting part, when you contact them and say, "Hey, I want a new credit limit," you want to pick one or two of them a year. Now, the cards that you pick, they're going to be the ones that have had an on-time payment history that is clean for at least 6 months, more effectively a year or more. You want to utilize cards that you have had in your possession for more than a year. So the cards that you're deciding on getting are ones that you've had for over a year. The cards that you're deciding on getting are that you're upgrading the limits on are going to be ones that you've been paying on time over the year, specifically writing low balances on over the year, and not going over the limit over the last year. Okay. Now, throughout the entire history of that card, or at least the recent history of that card, if the card is really old, you must have a perfect record of on time payments. The ideal target card is with a bank known for being generous with soft pull credit limit increases. And this is why you're going to go through your credit cards and find out which banks do this. That's part of your research, right? A soft pull doesn't impact your credit score at all. It does. They don't even report it. They don't even report the soft pull. And that is a non-negotiable for the strategy is to start with banks that do soft pulls. You're only going to do one hard pull every 6 months, but you're going to do one soft pull or multiple soft pulls, just one at a time, right? Uh, he said, breaking news, details to follow. Yes, there's a lot of details on tonight's show. There's a ton of details on tonight's show. Um, Michael come out of nowhere. Now, from what I've discovered, the best issuers that you can start with for this are typically American Express, Discover, and sometimes, depending on the one that you have, Capital One. Other banks like Bank of America and US Bank can also be good candidates. I've also seen some banks that automatically do it, like Navy Federal and quite possibly USAA. But you have those are credit unions, and this is one of the reasons why I tell you guys to get at least one bank account and one credit union in every state. So if you grab enough credit unions and grab enough banks across at least the 48 states that are connected to one another by dry land, then you should have about 94 financial institutions that you can pick through and see which ones offer the best credit cards and which ones offer the easiest credit increase requirements and which ones do soft pulls versus which ones that don't. So That's one of the things that you can think about when you start asking for new credit cards, which banks are the least difficult ones to get in, and then when you start doing increases, which ones are the least ones to get the increase on. Um, the ones you want to prioritize are going to be issuers that are known for the easy online soft pull approvals where you don't have to do anything but put up your application and just request it. Michael's talking about UFOs on White House lawns, but not White House is more focused on the missiles in Iran, not UFOs on White House lawns. So swing through the main topic, Michael. No, it is not popcorn. Why would I hold popcorn? No. Um, I'm not even eating popcorn, Michael. Pay attention. Now, once you guys have picked the primary banking institution that you're going to be targeting to get the credit limit increase, it is time for the single most powerful move that you will make all week. You're going to update that income. Banks use your income as a primary measure of your ability to handle a high credit limit. Um, this is usually in your account profile. So if you got a raise, if you started up a side hustle, or your household financial situation has improved, you need to document that with your bank. Log into your online credit portal and navigate to your profile or wherever your account services section is. Look for a link like update income or profile button. What you go there, you're going to find something that'll be asking you for your total annual or monthly salary. This is going to be crucial. For many banks, you are permitted to include your entire household income if you have a reasonable expectation of accessing that money. So remember what I told you, increasing the amounts, you've got to be able to prove that you can touch that amount. So say you have a $2,000 income, your partner has a $2,000 income, together y'all have a $4,000 a month income, and that $4,000 a month income would give you what, $48,000. If you are by yourself, like a $24,000 income, but you have ready accessibility to your partner's income, then you would find yourself in a position where you could claim your $48,000. If you're in a scenario where you're a $55,000 income and your partner is a $40,000 income, you can likely uh, uh, promote the accessibility to about $90,000. And that's because your partner lives in a house with you, y'all sharing an income, so you have access to that income. That is a household income because the question is, what is your household income? He says, okay, so you're going to have to go sit down somewhere, buddy. Michael says, is that before or after taxes income? It would be your gross income before taxes, not your net income after taxes. They want to know how much you made from your job overall. Then if they find out, I mean, if you have any other money, so yeah, if they find out you got any other money coming in, stocks, bonds, real estate, alimony, child support, any income from anywhere else, social security, disability, whatever, veterans pay, whatever else, you get all of that income, you claim all of that income as uh we would call that pre-tax, before tax money, not post-tax money. And then you want to be able to claim all of that. So he says he makes 40,000 a year doing professional foot modeling for certain sites. How can you save it up? That's actually one of the side hustles I was talking to you guys about a few months ago, and this guy's actually doing it and making $40,000 a year. Oh well, one of the ways that you save up is you balance your budget. That's how you do it. The first thing you got to do is establish the needs versus the wants and make sure that your needs are not um, costing you more than the money that you're bringing in. Then the money that you don't spend on your needs, you put that aside, build you up an emergency fund, and then after that, take the rest of the money and put it into your brokerage account. Um, well, if you're spending all of your money on your foot pictures, then you're not making any money. So you're spending $40,000 on making $45,000. So really, you're just giving away free photos. Is for anti-fungal commercials. Well, no, actually, so you have some anti-fungal commercials, but you also have nail polish commercials. You have socks, sandals. If you're doing female shoes, stuff to that effect. So it's not just the foot itself. They could be taking like a hand commercial. Could be about the fingernails. It could be about the hand using the phone, the hand uh, 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 going into a glove or holding a bag. Your hand doesn't have to necessarily be the only thing that's advertising. The hand itself, instead of having a person in the shot, it'll be a hand reaching into the camera and grabbing an object or something to that second, and that's what it's going to be to do. So, um, back to the main topic. Um, when you're looking back at your capabilities to um, get this income, this means that you're reporting this income because your spouse or your partner's income can often be included when you're in instances of a double figure bank account on file. Now, you got to be honest, reasonably, but also thorough. So include those incomes from whatever side hustles or reliable investments that you have. Update your income from say 60,000 to a household income of say 110,000, completely changing how the bank's algorithm sees your status. Now, while you're in there, make sure that your monthly household payments is also updated and accurate. Do this for your target cards. And while you're at it, do it for all of the other cards that you have because updating this information does not negatively impact your outcome. It actually improves it. This is going to prime all of the other cards for future automatic increases. You don't have to do anything. Typically, every 9 to 12 months, they automatically check your card. They check your status to see if your cards are satisfactory. And if your cards are satisfactory, they can automatically give you an increase. And you'll be like, oh, snap, I went from a $300 limit to a $3,000 limit. Sweet. And you don't have to do anything. So updating your profile like this benefits you. And then after that, when you get to that next card, you can start doing manual updates when necessary. Now, with your income updated, the bank system now sees you as more financially powerful of a customer. And over the next 3 days or the next 3 weeks, the next three times you go through this, you will provide some supporting evidence. The goal is going to be twofold. Show the bank that you actually use the card, but also ensure that your reported utilization is pristinely low when it is time to make your request. So, for the next 3 to 4 days or the next 3 to 4 weeks, your job is to use your target card for normal everyday spending. Put some gas in your car, buy yourself a soda. If you decide to stop by a fast food restaurant and pick something up, swipe one of your cards, the one or ones that you're working on. This is going to demonstrate to the bank's system that the card is top of the wallet and that the current limit perhaps a little restrictive. But here is where the strategy becomes truly surgical. The biggest mistake people make is waiting for their statement to arrive in the mail, then paying the bill. Instead, I've told you this before, you will use the power of prepayments. You need to know when your statement's closing date is, which is typically found on the most recent last credit card statement that you receive. If you're doing paperless, you can find this online by logging into your account and then going to the statement section and looking at last month and the month before statement. It's going to tell you from such date to such date, this is when your the end of your billing cycle is. Now remember, the last day of your business cycle is not set in stone. It is the last business day. So if your last day of your billing cycle is, say, on the 15th, if the 15th is on Saturday, the last day of your cycle would be on the 14th. If the last day is on Sunday, the last billing date is going to be on the 13th. If the last billing day is on Monday and Monday is a holiday, then your last billing date is going to be on the 12th. So you have to pay attention to this. For those individuals that have a billing cycle that ends on the 30th or the 29th, February is going to cut it a few days earlier because the last day of the month is the 28th. It doesn't have a 29 or a 30 unless it's a leap year. Then, if the 28th is on a weekend, like this year it was on a Saturday, instead of the bill cutting on the 30th or the 29th, it's actually cutting on the 27th. So you have to pay attention to the last day. Now, what I would recommend is that by making all of your payments, you need about 3 to 5 business days for any payment that is sent to your card to clear your account, which means that you want to make your last payment 5 to 7 days before the end of your billing cycle. This way, it will clearly reflect as paid, not pending, on your card when the billing cycle rolls over. However, what you're going to do, and we're going to talk about this again, you want to make sure that you leave something on the card. Doesn't have to be a lot, but it does have to be more than $1. Otherwise, it's going to be registered as zero. If you leave 65 cents or 72 cents or even 89 cents, it may register as zero. So you don't want to do that. You want to leave at least $1, or like Michael said, $2. Got to leave something on the card. Anything over $1, it will register as at least $1. Now, on day 5, whatever day 3 to 5 is for you before the closing date, that's when you're going to be making the largest payment on your card. Before asking for any increases, you want to aggressively pay down any credit cards that you have that you're going to be asking for increases on so that the over 30% utilization gets brought down to your overall utilization of 10% or less. Further below 10%, say something like 0.5% or 0.01%, that's even better. But as long as it's less than 10%, you're doing a good job. Here's a concrete example of that. Your card has, say, a $2,000 limit on it, and your statement closes on the 15th. Over day 3 and day 4, you spend like $400 on a card. Day 5, you logged in and you made a $390 payment. You're paying off almost the entire amount with the exception of $10 before the balance is even generated on the statement. When your statement closes on the 15th, the balance reported a credit bureau that you had just $10 on the card. Your utilization on that particular card will be a microscopic 0.5%. You've successfully shown the bank that you use the card while demonstrating an elite level of financial responsibility. A small, non zero balance is key, as a $0 balance can sometimes be interpreted by algorithms as non activity. So you want to use the card and leave something on the card. This is the day that your income update is going to pay attention to by the algorithm. They're going to be focused on this, and your utilization is reporting at beautifully low numbers when your billing statement rolls over. It is time to ask, and you're going to ask with confidence. Once your billing statement rolls over, you're showing the low utilization. And you can actually do this. And this is one of the reasons why I tell you guys that say you have a $5,000 or $7,000 credit card, you've got about $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000 worth of debt. You can put 80% of the stuff that you've got to put onto that credit card, and then only putting enough that your paycheck can cover, and then take your paychecks, whatever they are, and pay all of that down to dollar, $10, whatever, before the end of the billing cycle. And that gives you the capabilities to roll over debt month to month, because whatever you would have put your cash on, you put it on your card. And then everything from your paycheck went onto your card to pay the card down. Another thing you want to make sure that you do is offset your credit cards, where you have a credit card due every week, or you have two credit card or a handful of credit cards due right after your first paycheck, and a handful of credit cards due right after your second paycheck. The reason why you want to do this is because any credit card that is about to roll over, you don't want to use that one, because the payment might, the charge that you just made might process on the current billing cycle. You want to use one that's got a due date a week or two from now. That way you have enough time to let this credit card roll over, then start charging this card, and put the cash on the other card to pay down the other card, so that when that card rolls over, it's showing 0.5% or less as well. Now, this works for people who don't work for the federal government, because if you work for the federal government and you don't get paid for 6 weeks, once you charge that stuff to your credit card, your credit card's running high until you get some money to pay it down. Michael says the largest payment should be going to you, not someone else's pocket. Well, if any event that you were supposed to be building generational wealth in this discussion, then yes, the largest payment should go to you, not to somebody else. But if you are trying to build your credit limits, then you want to make the largest payments that you can afford to make to show utilization, consolidating all of your expenses, and then taking the cash that you get and putting it on those payments to pay those payments down, so that by the time the billing cycle rolls over, there's almost nothing there. Now, that does not mean that you can't take a large chunk of the money that you make every month and put it into your brokerage account. But if out of, say, a $4,000 a month income, you put $1,000 on your brokerage account, then you're only spending $3,000 a month worth of money, because you're going to take that $3,000 worth of cash and put it onto your credit cards. But if you're putting $1,500 down on your rent and you have to do that in cash, you only have $1,500 left out of your monthly salary, and that means that you're only putting $1,500 onto your credit cards, and you're going to pay that down to about $1 to $5, and then you're going to pay the rest of it off right after the billing cycle rolls over, so that when the monthly statement is done, they verify that you paid everything off. So you can still invest, you can still build your future, you can still do everything that we've talked about doing with everything else, but you are capable of um, putting your money right where it's supposed to be. Yeah, I verified that at the top of the show, that the federal government is still shut down because of the DHS bill. And then we're dealing with the attacks in Iran right now over the nuclear weapons. I covered that within the first 13 minutes of the show. And I also told everybody that since that happened, you might as well go ahead and invest in Shell, Chevron, and Exxon Mobil, because I mean all the fuel they're burning with sending fighter planes over there to drop bombs on Iran just allows for you to uh make extra money in your stocks. Oh, you're just following the story? Well, shit, if you started the show when I started the show, you would have been up to date, because I paid attention to it. I said, soon as it starts negatively impacting our money, I'm like, ooh, what's this about? Because let them say, oh, well, somebody's arguing with somebody in the White House. I don't give a fuck. But when it can potentially impact our money, ooh, what's this about? Right? That's exactly what I do. And then that's the first thing I talk about on the show is, well, that's not today's topic, but it does mess with our money. New stories for us to chase. I mean, no, not really, because I'm not going to sit here every day and do like an 8 hour podcast on how they're dropping bombs and fighter pilots are being blown up in airplanes in a different country, because that's not the part that impacts our money. The creation of those fighter planes, the creation of the replacement fighter planes, the cost of repairing those fighter planes, that's coming out of our money. The like I said, the fuel that's going to be utilized for the rockets and the missiles and the planes that are going to be going over there, the boats and the submarines that's going to be going over there, that's going to be impacting our money. So, am I going to talk about the moment by moment actions of the Iran war? No, of course not. Am I going to sit here and talk about how they're going to be putting U.S. troops in Britain so that they're closer to Iran so that they don't have to wait until the missiles get to Florida before they do something about it? No, I'm not going to cover that part at all. Why? Because it has absolutely nothing to do with our money beyond buying into Shell, Chevron, and Exxon because they're going to be spending more money on fuel to go over there and cause trouble over there. But what I will tell you though is that if you don't have a felony, use your Second Amendment and improve the resources that you carry at your house, if not in your car, so that if any event that the activities in Iran end up in America, you are prepared. Because there's no way that you're going to be able to wait that 3 day wait time to go and pick you up a Second Amendment if any event that the attacks end up closer to home. Our constitutional right to protect ourselves from foreign and domestics requires us to be prepared for foreign invasions. We're not prepared for foreign invasions if we can't lock and load in our bedroom right now today. So, if and when it gets here, that's what you need to prepare for. He says, you mean standing in gas lines to get fuel? Well, no, I don't mean that. I mean gas prices going up because they're using the fuel to fuel all of the military equipment that's going over to the other countries to cause war, which also means that while gas prices are going up, Americans are going to keep paying for gas regardless of how high the gas prices go up. We're because it's starting to get hot out, we're going to articulate that as the um summertime, and that's not going to be it, which would then put us in a position where they're going to keep buying the fuel. While they're buying the fuel, ironically, stocks for fuel is going to go up. So it's like go get that. But yeah, if you've got access to MREs, go get MREs as well. Timu is selling a 20-gallon gas can for like $200. So if you really want to get you a couple of those and then store some gas at your house, in most cars, most of the regular cars are doing like 10 to 15-gallon gas tanks. So one or two 20-gallon gas cans at your house that has the electric pump on it that can actually pump the fuel directly into your car. You can actually refill your car 2 or 3 times before you have to go to the gas station. You can store those, but because it's starting to get hot, you want to make sure that you store those in ventilated locations where there's like some kind of fan or something like that blowing the heat. Because if you got all that gas somewhere and it's under pressure and under heat, then them gas cans can explode, and you don't really want that. So gas will be rationed if you can get in there and get you some. But the prices are going to go up. So you want to make sure that you invest in those. You said invest in Chevron, Shell, and ExxonMobil because Chevron is on the ground in Venezuela. So you want to have Chevron and then you want to have ExxonMobil and Shell because I mean they're also doing the barrels of oil as well. Now, back to the credit card discussion. Your first and best method to start getting the credit card increases is through the bank's website or mobile app. This is going to be the path that most likely triggers an automatic, instantaneous soft pull approval. If you log in and look for a link that says request a credit limit increase or something similar to that, the form will typically ask you to reconfirm what you've already put into your profile, the total annual income or monthly housing payments. Re enter the updated information exactly the way you put it in there. The higher income figures that you've already installed is what they're going to be verifying. Then you're going to see a box for your desired credit limit. This is going to be where so many people fail. They timidly ask for a small, insignificant little bump. Well, if I've got a $500 credit card, then they'll at least give me another $500. If I've got a $2,500 income, I mean, a credit card limit, they might give me another $500. No, a common, highly effective strategy is to ask for 2 to 3 times more your current credit limit. If you have a limit of $5,000, you should be asking for $10,000 or $15,000. If you've got a $2,000 credit limit, you should be asking for $4,000 or $6,000 limit. If you've got a $500 credit limit, you should be asking for $1,000 to $1,500 credit limit. You might find yourself getting 10 times the limit. If you've got a $300 credit limit and you're with somebody like Navy Federal, they might up that to $3,000. It just really depends on what you're asking for, but you need to be asking for at least three times more than what you already have as a limit. This gives the bank room to negotiate down, right? If you ask for the bare minimum, it's either yes or no. If you ask for upward of the max, they might not want to give you the max, but they'll give you something less than the max, but more than what you ever thought possible. And they may come back with an offer like, well, $7,000, a number that might be exceptionally larger than the original $2,000 or $5,000. And that's going to be more than what you had ever dared to ask for initially before today. Don't negotiate against yourself. You want to ask big, but not impossibly big. You're not asking for a $100,000 credit limit increase off of a $10,000 credit card. But if you got a $10,000 credit card, it does make sense to ask for $30,000. Now, before you click that submit button, you want to be a vigilante. Go back through, scan the page for any fine print, because with most of them, you will see insurers like American Express and Discover, where the process will be ideally a soft inquiry. However, some banks might trigger a hard inquiry. When you do this request, after you've read the fine print, it can't be undone. If you have access to your credit report, double check and see if a hard inquiry has happened. If you have an Experian account, an Equifax account, a True TransUnion account, and you have credit notification updates where whenever a hard pull happens, you get an email, you want to see if that hard inquiry occurs. But the bank will disclose if a hard inquiry has to happen. So if you see a sentence like, by submitting this request, you authorize us to obtain a copy of your credit report, which may affect your credit score, you want to stop, because a hard inquiry is not the primary goal here. If it says that they'll do a soft pull, go for it. You only want to do one hard pull every 6 months. Now, when we were talking about building our credit score before by applying for new credit cards, and we suggested applying for a new credit card once every 6 months. If you're going to boost one credit card per year and apply for one credit card per year, and your partner is going to boost one credit card per year and apply for one credit card per year, you still only have a maximum of two credit pulls, two hard pulls per person per year. And as we're going to be talking about later in the show, if you have a partner, and it doesn't matter if it's a romantic partner, if it's your best friend from way back when, if it's a family member, if y'all can do authorized user accounts where you add somebody onto your account as an authorized user and they add you onto their accounts as an authorized user without issuing extra cards, their credit reports will show your credit cards, your credit reports will show their credit cards, and all y'all have to do is keep those credit cards low. Okay? Keep them low, under 10%. So this isn't something that you want to do with a financially irresponsible person that's riding 80% credit card debt, which is another reason why, ladies, y'all should not be looking for the guy that's willing to spend the most money on you. You should be looking for the guy that's financially responsible. So if he's willing to give you $500 dinner dates on the first date and he doesn't know your last name, he's not going to be financially responsible, which means that you're not going to be able to build credit with him like this. But a guy that is financially responsible, sandwich, soda, walk in the park kind of thing, and then you know that he should be able to budget his money a little bit better, keeping his credit utilization low, keeping his credit limits high. and revolving payments responsibly with on-time payments, which means that you can build with that person, right? So everything I tell you guys, it boils down to each other becoming the master plan for the 20-year end goal, right? So if there's no warning of a hard pull, you don't get no notifications. You want to click submit. You'll get one of three outcomes: a full on approval, a pre approval, or partial approval, which is still a huge win, or a message that your request is under review or denied. If you get the letter, don't be discouraged. You simply proceed to the final stage on step day seven. If the automated system didn't give you an instant approval, you escalate your calls. You take the next day off, whatever you can. This is to get a human on the phone, not a machine. A credit analyst with the power to override the computer's decisions. We always love that, right? Don't just call the number on the back of your card. Search online for your bank's reconsideration line. That is a big difference. You're not talking to customer care, you're talking for reconsideration lines. This phone number gets you closer to a real decision maker, not just the person that wants to keep you from canceling your credit card. Once you have someone on the line, be prepared to calmly and confidently make your case using this template. Try to be respectful. Good morning. I'm calling about a credit limit increase request I submitted online yesterday for my whatever the bank card is, ending in whatever the last four numbers are. I was hoping that you might be able to take a second look at it for me, right? You want to pause, let them pull up your account, then you can continue. Thank you. I've been very happy customer with you for whatever many years and months that you've been a customer. I have a perfect payment history. My financial situation has improved significantly. And as I noted in my profile, my total household income is now whatever your new amount is. I'm working to use this card as my primary card for all of my expenses, even though that's not going to be the case because you probably got 10 or 20 cards in your pocket. That's what you're telling this card company. This is where you connect the dots for them. The issue I'm running into is that my current limit of whatever your limit is a bit restrictive, making it difficult to put all of my spending on this one card without my utilization getting too high. As you can see from my recent history, I work hard to keep that reported balance extremely low by paying it down before the statement closes. And this is true to life because I actually had a card one time that I was rolling 15 or $20,000 through, and the card had a $5,000 limit. And I was like, bro, like, look at how often do I have to make a payment on this card to run $15,000 through a $5,000 credit card limit and have $2 owed at the end of the month when the billing cycle rolls over? I literally spent $15,998 on this card. That was running it through the business though. That wasn't like personal spending. We're talking about company cars. We're talking about fuel. We're talking about payroll. All this other stuff. Now, when you're talking to the provider, I had requested a new limit of whatever your big ask is, which is three times your current credit card limit, to give me the flexibility to use the card as intended and keep my utilization well under the 10% expectations. I was hoping that you could manually review my profile and approve that increase. Sometimes they got to get a manager's approval. Just to confirm, can you process this as a soft inquiry? You don't want them to do a second hard pull if they did a first hard pull, right? That's what you want to do. You just laid out a powerful logical case. You reminded them of your loyalty, the long-standing years of service. stated your high income levels that have been currently verified and explained why you want the increase, not to go into debt, but to better manage your utilization, not to pay off your student loans or catch up on your car notes, to better maximize your utilization and prioritize this card in your spending habits. If they offer you a counter offer, whatever it is, accept it gracefully. This turns a no from a computer into a huge win from a human. So you might have had a $500 card. You might have asked them for $1,500. They might have offered to bump you up to like 800. That's fine. You might have had a $10,000 card. You asked them for $30,000. They might bump you up to 15,000. That's fine. You know, but for the sake of, if you had a $10,000 card and you asked for $30,000 and they gave it to you, big win, right? The worst they can say is no, offer a counter and take whatever the counter is. You don't want to fuss and argue and threaten or anything to that. Say, oh, I'll cancel my card, blah, 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 blah. No, because they'll just deny you and then, ready to charge you off. But whatever that counter offer is, you take that. This 7-day plan is going to be your launch pad. But you got to be strategic and patient because the patience will pay off in the long run. And since you're going to do not more than two of these credit cards a year, if you only do one credit increase a year and then you only apply for one new credit card a year, and every credit card that's more than a year old, or if you just do this to each one of your oldest credit cards, um, the longest credit limits the longest account lines are going to keep your credit score higher, and then when your limits spike, your credit score goes up a lot too. However, each new account that you start will shorten your average history, but it is recommended that you have at least 10 lines of credit, 10 credit cards. So if you've only got one or two, you should probably over the next 5 years try to pick up five more or seven more. Well, you want to pick up at least one a year. If you pick up one a year, you want to get a increase one a year. So if you've got two and you picked up five more over the next 5 years and did an increase on five older cards over the next 5 years, your credit limit would increase every year. And the irony is that some of these credit cards are going to automatically update themselves anyway, which means those are the ones you don't have to reach out to. You can reach out to those last. Because if they give you a credit limit increase, you're still utilizing the card effectively. And then you find yourself in a position where you're showing still good payment histories, not going over the limit, and low utilization on that card that probably went from $300 to $3,000 automatically. When you do call them, where the credit increase was over a year ago, now you're calling them and saying, hey, can I turn that 3,000 into 9,000? When you finally do get to that card. And since you're only hitting your oldest cards first, if you've got 3 to 5 cards and you're going to do one card a year, you're going to add one card a year to your system. By the time you get to the new cards that you just added onto the account, those cards are 3 years old because you had three other cards to deal with. This allows you to build a routine. If you've got a partner that's doing the same thing, and each card that they get a limit increase on, they're adding you on those cards as an authorized user where you once was not on those cards, not only is your limits going to increase because of the limit increases of the cards you had, your limit increase will occur because of the extra lines of credit that are just going to be grandfathered into your account um, that weren't there before. So if she's got 5 or 7 cards that she's had for the last 7 years, and you've got X, Y, and Z number of cars that you've had for however many years, and y'all start pooling that stuff together, you start finding out that now y'all got like 14 cards between the two of you. You needed at least 10, remember? And if you're keeping all of these cards in good standings, where the ending balance is less than $10, and the payment is done immediately after the billing cycle rolls over, so that it doesn't get late, and your um your limits are all high. You guys are sitting pretty. Then think about this. When y'all start co-signing on stuff, for those people who get married, when y'all start co-signing on stuff, you've got two good credit scores because your 30, 40, $50,000 worth of credit cards and her 30, 40, $50,000 worth of credit cards is the same freaking cards. But now it looks like you have two people with $50,000 worth of credit, which is a combined $100,000 worth of credit. In a credit profile, co-signers of good credit with high limits and low utilization are more likely to get approved together with their combined income than an individual person with their shit together financially because they can count on two different people to cover this debt. Okay. So first, you want to let that autopilot work for you. Most banks periodically are going to run internal reviews on your accounts and automatically raise limits for those accounts that are showing solid usage. So the first thing you want to start doing is using each card. Even if it's nothing more than $10 purchase that you put $8 on, so that, like Michael said, there's at least $2 on it at the end of the billing cycle, and you take that $2 and put it on that account at that right after the billing cycle, not before. You want to leave a couple dollars on the card and then pay that off right after it rolls over. Just doing that alone and updating the profile, whenever you get back to that card to ask for an increase, you are showing a good history anyway. So um, you will see that on time payments over 6 to 12 months would likely spark an automatic increase. So if you've been for the last 12 months doing good on this card, you're likely going to see that card go up. To trigger this, you want to use every card that you're trying to do this with every month for regular purchases. Simple stuff. You're not trying to pay off your car note with this card and then not having the money to pay for that particular amount. You want to be able to only spend what you have enough money to cover in order to build this up. Allow a small balance to stay on the card more than $1 so that the three major credit bureaus reports this on your statement, and then they're when you pay that off immediately after the billing cycle rolls over, it will report the fact that you made that payment. So not only is it showing usage, it's showing on-time payments, and that's what you need, right? And it's on-time payments of the full balance, not just a percentage of the balance. When those individuals that ride a balance and they only pay the minimum balance on there, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about getting rid of it before the billing due date. So if your credit card rolls over on the 15th and of 1 month, and it's supposed to be due by the 10th of the next month, that by the 10th of the next month, that the entire balance was paid off. Nothing is still sitting there from before, right? And this is actually very effective. If you left $2 on there, your billing cycle rolls over, you buy $700 worth of stuff and you put $600 on it before the 10th, you've effectively paid off the $2 from before. But it is safer for you if you know your billing cycle is on the 15th, you know that they cut the bill on the 15th, on the 16th or 17th, you're going on there looking at the new billing statement and then you're like, oh, $2. You should have that just lingering in your bank account because you know that you're planning on doing this, right? Then you just $2, just boom, right? Take care of it immediately. So that by the time you get the bill in the mail, what they say you owe was already paid before they even printed the paper. That's the goal. So you never forget, right? This pattern is exactly what low and grow algorithms are designed to reward you for. So the second, space out your manual requests. Many issuers prefer at least 6 months between increase requests, even when they're soft pulls. So a good strategy is to rotate which card you ask for an increase on every 6 months. And if, like I told you before, if you're trying to add new cards to your collection, you want to add one card every year and ask for one increase every year. So that means that you should have out of 5 cards, you should ask for one increase every year for 5 years. And since you only have five cards, you should request one new credit card every year for 6 years, for 5 years. And that would mean you would have 10 cards with 10 higher limits. Now, one of the plus sides is that when you're asking for new credit cards, because you have higher credit utilization, you can find yourself getting approved of credit cards even easier, which means you could find yourself with even more credit limits. Um, you want to make sure that your total available credit grows steadily every 6 months without a burst of inquiries on any one account. Okay. Finally, you want to consider a strategic new card because if your scores and income justify it, a new high limit card can sometimes add more available credit at one instance and then multiply small increases. So only apply if your recent inquiries are low and you're not about to apply for a major loan like a mortgage. So you don't want to have credit hits for credit cards right before you're trying to apply for a car or trying to apply for a house. If you're trying to apply for a car or a house, you let that settle. 6 months after you've applied for the car or the house, then you go and apply for the credit card, for the new credit card. Same thing with the credit increases. If you're about to apply for a car or a house, 6 months after you've gotten that car or that house, or 6 months after you finish that process, because sometimes you get denied and say, fuck it, I gotta wait. Then you request for that credit limit. But if you requested for the credit limit, you want to wait 6 months before you apply for a car or a house. So if your credit score is a 650 right now, and it's going to get you whatever it is that you're trying to get, just get that, take the interest rates, and then wait 6 months. If your credit score is a 700 and you're trying to get to a 750 and whatever it is that you was about to go get, you don't really need it right now. So you just wait, go ahead and get you a couple more, boost up your credit score, wait another year, and then go out there and go get it with your 750. Do it. But decide first, am I going to apply for a credit card? Am I going to apply for an increase or am I going to apply for a loan, be it a mortgage or a car loan? And that one pull happens that 6 months. Because when you go to a dealership, they're going to do five pulls at the dealership. And if you're going to a dealership to get a car, you want to go to the dealership with a pre approval from your own personal bank so that your bank does one pull. And just like I told you before, if you have one bank and one credit union in multiple states around the country, instead of the dealership randomly selecting five different places and then offering you the best interest rates out of the five, you can go to one specific place and get verified because you're a member. And then that person will be the only hard hit that you have on getting that car. So if you're using a credit union or something like that, Navy Federal or whatever, that low interest rate or whatever the interest rate is, that's it. That's going to be what's going to pay for this car. And you want to get an approval rate for the value of the type of car that you're trying to get. So if you want to get a $20,000 car, you want the loan approval to be for that $20,000 car. If they're claiming that you're going to have to put five or $10,000 down for that $20,000 loan, you're going to have that five or $10,000 held in collateral at the bank before you go to the dealership and negotiate the car. Since you know that you're approved for a $20,000 car, you're walking onto the dealership to get a car that costs less than $20,000 with taxes so that 100% of the value of the car is already pre approved by your bank. So when you walk onto the dealership floor, you want that one because it's already inside of your budget. You like the way it looks. Doesn't matter how it drives. If it's a certified pre owned vehicle and you've got the guarantees that it's not going to break down on you, you got all the contracts signed up. If you're going to get a car like I said, $20,000, you're going to get a car that's like 14,000 or 15,000 plus taxes, and throw down the extended warranties that might cost you an extra 3,000, bringing the total price of the car with taxes and everything up to about 19,000, covering the whole loan. Done, right? Now you're rolling off. You got a triple diamond platinum package, a warranty on it, covering the car to make sure that everything's good, and then you're knocking out everything that you need with only one pull. But if you're not doing that, then you're going to go and deal with the house. Uh, so apparently Jason is giving a shout out to Will Smith. So special shout out to Will Smith and special shout out to Hollywood, California. Uh, it looks like, oh, you're talking about oh, Will Smith got a job. Cool. Thank you. I really appreciate that. So special shout out to him. Now, remember, only do this if and when you're going to be only focusing on boosting up a credit limit or only focusing on getting a new credit card. If you're focusing on getting a car loan or if you're focusing on getting a mortgage, don't do keep your credit payments up, keep your credit utilizations low, but don't do any credit requests, don't do any limit requests until after your loan has been finalized. Okay, because a hard inquiry is a hard inquiry, and too many hard inquiries in a short period of time is going to make your mortgage lender not want to lend to you. The same way your car dealership is going to be skeptical about lending to you, in the same way your credit card companies are going to be reluctant about giving you new cars or giving you increases. And from one of the things that I've understood is that even if you're doing two per year, they last on your credit score for like 7 years. And if you have more than 21, it really starts hurting your credit score. And if you're doing two per year over the 7 year time span, that's 14. Okay. And so you want to keep the quantity of requests under 10 over the course of 5 years. You want to keep it under 10. You want to keep it low. After the first couple of years, they typically like stop impacting you and they may even fall off, but you want to keep like less, far less than 10 requests. Okay. That's one of the things that you want to remember. Now, for those who have the basics down packed, here are going to be some advanced plays to accelerate credit limit growth. There is the triple request script. So when speaking to an agent, don't ask for a small bump, ask for a multiple of your current limit. Frame it like this: I'd like to request an increase to triple my current limit from 5,000 to 15,000 to better match my income and spending patterns and to keep my utilization low. Let them negotiate you down to a still significantly high increase. Uh, like I said before, become an authorized user. If you have a trusted spouse or a relative with a long, clean, high limit card with low utilization, being added to an authorized user account can instantly increase your reported available credit. It can also maximize your credit score without hard hits. The primary card holder's low utilization and positive history will appear on your report, which can boost your credit score significantly. You don't even need to possess or use the physical cards that are attached to that account. So, specifically, you can have authorized users without a card issue. This only works with credit card companies that are not going to charge you for a second card or make it mandatory to issue a second card. If they're going to issue a second card, it must be sent directly to the primary card holder, and then the primary card holder cut that card up because it's not going to be used by the authorized user. Okay. Now, use a $0 balance transfer as leverage carefully. Excuse me. A card with a 0% APR balance transfer offer can be used to shift debt off a smaller limit card. For example, moving $3,000 from a card with a $3,000 limit to a card with $10,000 limit, instantly dropping the first card's utilization to zero. The card now looks extremely low, especially if you can pull this off before the end of the billing cycle, making it a perfect candidate for a large credit limit increase request. You must be disciplined not to remax the freed up card space. You also have to make sure that when you're doing this credit utilization transfer, that the new card company is not going to forcibly terminate the account of your old card company. You want to make sure of that. As long as they're just going to assume the debt and you're going to make the payments on a new account, the old account is going to stay open. Fantastic, right? Because you have a newer credit limit. You go from 3,000 to 13,000, and you're still writing that same debt. But if you're $3,000 on 13,000 is far less than $3,000 on $3,000. Now, time your good news. Stack a few positive data points on the same 30-day billing cycle. For instance, pay down a chunk of debt, update your profile with recent payment raises, and ensure that you have no new inquiries in this billing cycle. Then make your request with a clear story. My income recently increased from X to Y, and I'm requesting a $20,000 limit so that this card can handle all of my monthly business travel. Fantastic. Growing business credit limits follows a similar principle, but on a larger scale. Leveraging revenue and business data aids you in your ability to get credit card debt. Now, for those of you who don't have a business, you should set one up. One of the reasons why I gave you guys all of that information about doing startups online where you can utilize your computer, a little bit of internet, and create side hustles that generate revenue, get you an EIN with those things, set you up a business, your regular revenue from whatever that is actually gives you more money to pay for the other things that you want to pay for on your account. And that's one of the things that we really want to get to. We want to make sure that your overall um your overall credit limit is paid off after you have put together your own individual capabilities to produce better results, right? So, starting with growing your business, first thing you want to do, make the business fundable. You got to operate it through an LLC or a C corporation, not an S corporation. Get an EIN, open the business checking account to show real cash flow. Having money go directly into that bank account, preferably direct deposit, because some banks charge money for cash deposits. Register the business with Dun and Bradstreet to get a DUNS number, which is called a DUNS number. So trade lines can report and build your business credit scores. Step two, you want to build business credit data fast. Opening a business card and a few net 30 vendor accounts, which I'm going to put some net 30 vendors into the membership. And I'm also going to, I believe there's some net 10 and net 20 vendors as well. I'm going to be putting those into the membership. You can actually scale if you want to. You can get some like net 10 and net 20 vendors, use those for a little bit, and then aim for the qualifications for net 30 vendors and scale up if you like. Or you could just try to dive right into net 30s, whichever ones you feel comfortable with. But it is the requirement that you establish a vendor account with them where you're going to order products from that vendor, whatever it may be, and um, they're going to send you an invoice. You're going to pay that invoice, and that is going to be the line of credit. So they're going to front you products. You're going to get a bill for it later. Then you're going to pay that bill in a reasonable period of time, and that establishes your credit with them. Okay, that's going to report to business credit bureaus. You want to use them for regular expenses and pay on time to establish strong business credit profiles. Now, unlike your personal credit score, your business credit does not bounce back. So you want to be careful with how you use your business credit. You want to put stuff on your business credit and keep it legitimately as high as possible. No late payments, no failures if possible for as long as possible. Okay, no charge offs, no delinquencies, nothing like that. Okay, this is highly important for you because if not, your business credit will go from its level at 100 down to zero. There's no coming back off of that. You can't work it back up. You can build back up your personal credit, but you can't build back up your business credit. Okay. And the lower your business credit gets, the harder it is for your business to establish lines of credit. Step three, set up an unorthodox leverage to help with building lines of credit. Consolidate as much spending as possible on one or two flagship business cards and pay them off aggressively to show how high volumes plus perfect control. If you have strong revenue but a thin credit line, consider a corporate or fintech card that underwrites based on bank balances and sales, such as Brex, Ramp, or even Divvy. That's the company I was thinking about yesterday when we were talking about the real estate places. Divvy is one of those companies that will buy a property on your behalf, rent it to you for a while, then sell it to you shortly after. Usually they foreclose on you and keep your house and take all your money, but that's their model that they advertise. Now, next step, back to the credit card thing. Leveraging your income can give you 10 to 20 times higher limits without relying on personal FICO scores because they are looking at your actual revenue from the business. So if you have $100,000 coming into your business, you likely can get 10 to 20 times higher limits than what your income is, which could put $100,000 income into a $1 million credit line. So you can also use the vendor net 30 terms to free up card capacity, letting inventory sit on terms while your cards handle expenses like travel and adventures and advertisements. Step four, you want to leverage cash flow with underwriting. If you have strong revenue, and well, we already covered a little bit of this, and some of your FICO stuff, you want to utilize that the fintech corporate cards, and you want to use these corporate cards to be able to make purchases. Like for example, they have corporate gas cards. You can get you some corporate gas cards. Using those corporate gas cards, you can potentially, if you're doing this with a couple of other buddies that you're building this business with, you can use this gas card to put gas in everybody's car and then take the money that everybody's giving you for gas and put it on the card and pay off the card. High usage of the account shows that this account is working on a commercial level. You guys might be together spending $5,000, not 5,000, like $1,000 a month on gas. That's commercial level. No person, not I can't say no person because if you're in Florida or California, you're probably spending $1,000 a month on gas. Some people are spending like $80 a tank, and they're spending like two Phillips or three Phillips a week. So they're typically $240 a week. So it's likely that they're doing $1,000 of gas. But my point is that you guys can work this in. Then you want to do for step five because I was thinking about step four twice. Step five is asking for big limit increases for your big business. When you request a higher limit off of whatever limit they initially gave you, you're either going to be doing this online or by phone and have receipts ready. This is going to mean that you're going to have your profits and losses statements, which is going to show how much money you've been making versus how much money you've been spending. Preferably, you want to have more money made than money spent. If you're a nonprofit and you're breaking even, that's not going to suit well with them. You want your bank statements and you want your tax returns ready. Okay. And you want to have proof of growing revenue ready to upload or quote. This is going to be important because if they're going to give you any lines of credit, you have to prove that you have that money coming in. You can't just fabricate documents. Tell a clear business use case. For example, we'll need a $50,000 limit to cover our monthly ad spend and inventory. Our current revenue is $40,000 a month. We've paid on time for the last 12 months because, again, you have to have the account for 6 to 12 months or longer before you start asking for credit increases. We keep our utilizations low because you have, but you should show that you've got a decent quantity of spending. Many issuers will bump the limit much more willingly for business cards when you tie the requested number to your revenue and specific reoccurring expenses. The sixth step that you're going to be dealing with is deciding on whether or not you're going to use personal guarantees or non personal guarantees. Traditional business cards often require a personal guarantee. This means that you are personally liable for the debt of the business if the business can't pay it. These cards can start with higher limits and grow faster if your personal credit and income are strong. Now, if you've got good credit card limits and everything like that, where we were building this up with our personal accounts, then we start using ourselves as a personal guarantor on corporate cards. Likely, your business card is going to have your personal guarantor account on your personal credit score, which means that if they give you a $30,000 personal guarantor line of credit for your business, that's likely going to show up on your credit score because you're liable for the debt, which means you're benefiting from the line of credit. This helps you out a lot. Now, as I said before, if you're going to have a personal guarantor line of credit for your business, you do not want to max that out and end up allowing it to charge off. Any unsecured, non personal guarantor lines of credit, if something happens and you're going to liquidate the business, the non secured, non personal guarantor lines of credit are the ones that you want to run up. That's just point blank, period. If you've got to do a bankruptcy, liquidate the business, pay for a new EIN number and start up another business somewhere else. You're using a brand new line of credit that you have from your personal line of credit, and then you're using a new EIN with a new business status with new lines of credit for the new business. Personal guaranteeing yourself for a new business, which would start you off hitting the ground running with the 100 DUNS number and then the high credit limits, which also will improve your personal lines of credit. Now, you'll find yourself if you've got corporate lines of credit with your name on it and personal lines of credit with your name on it, when you start getting a half million, quarter million, all this other stuff, it starts making it easier for you to have a personal request for a credit card. If you've already got a $250,000 worth of credit lines, it's easy to ask for a credit card. You should see yourself crossing over a 750 credit score by the time you get to $250,000 credit cards. And it should be easier to get yourself to that 800 credit limit. Not to mention, if you're doing this over the course of 5 years, some of the charge offs that you had 4 years ago should have fallen off of your credit report over the last 5 or 7 years, which means that it'll instantly see credit boost because you won't have certain charge offs that you haven't been paying still lingering on your personal credit score. So you want to be able to tap dance around this. Over the course of, remember I told you guys at the beginning of the show, fixing your 20-year plan. If part of your 20-year plan is fixing your credit score, it's going to take 10 years to do it because anything that's charged off that you don't feel like paying and correcting is going to linger for 7 years. And on year 8, you're going to ask them to take that off. 2 years after that, any improvements in your financial status is going to start spiking. So come year 10, you're going to have a perfect credit score. But overnight, it's not going to be perfect because any charge offs that's there still going to linger. Any late payments that's there still going to linger. A late payment from 10 years ago not going to hurt your credit score, especially if that account doesn't exist anymore. But a late payment within the last 2 years, that's going to linger for 10 years. It's going to linger for the next 7 years. So 8 years in, you're like, oh, you've had a late payment over the last 3 years. You understand? You had a late payment over the last 6 years. So you got to be careful with your stuff. Now, these cards are going to start with higher limits. That's going to grow faster if your personal line of credit and your income is strong. So you want to make sure that you're doing PG when you're starting up a business. But if you've got one fully established, you can do non-parental, non um PG. You don't want to be responsible for those. The non PG corporate cards that you're not responsible for, on the other hand, are going to be based on the limits of your business's performance, and they can scale very high if your business is making a large quantity of money. So, say for example, this podcast turns into a multi-million dollar podcast. Any lines of credit that are tied to the revenue of this podcast could ultimately lead to multi-million dollar lines of credit. Um, which is separate from my personal lines of credit. However, you can, and we're going to be talking about that in a second, add yourself onto any corporate lines of credit as an authorized user. Now, if you're doing a non PG, they usually require meaningful revenue and time in business quality to qualify. So, following the plan is only half of the battle. You also need to avoid some common mistakes, but you also want to make sure that you have reoccurring income coming into your business, going into your business account. You want to have um, a large quantities of income. So you want to try to scale your business. If you're going to use lines of credit to start your business, you then want to start making sure that you're using those lines of credit for your business under your business name to benefit your business credit score. And then if you want to add yourself onto your business as an authorized user or a personal guarantor, you want to be able to do that so that the better lines of credit reflect on your personal credit score, which aids you in getting closer to an 800 credit score, which aids you in leveraging for more lines of credit for your business. Now, some of the things you shouldn't do. You want to avoid these common mistakes and pitfalls. Do not get impatient. Nothing we do is overnight. This is a multi-year plan, but this is something that you can start doing right away and start seeing results. After requesting an increase on any one card, let that account rest for at least 6 to 9 months. Bombarding the same issuer signals financial desperation. You also only want to hit one card at a time. So you want to let your whole credit scores linger for 6 months before you try this again. Don't request on multiple cards at once because a cluster of requests, especially if they result in hard inquiries, can scare issuers and drop your credit score as well. Each hard inquiry drops your credit score at least 1 point, even if the credit increase can give you 15 points. The more hits that you have, the more hard hits you have, the lower your credit score is. Do the best that you can not to close any old credit cards. I know that a lot of people do credit consolidations. What they'll do is you'll have 3 or 4 different small credit cards, and somebody will like, especially if you have it with the same credit issuer. So, like for example, Capital One, you might have 5 or 7 $1,000 credit cards with Capital One, and then they decide to consolidate all of your credit cards and then triple your limit and give you a $15,000 credit card to cover the $7,000 worth of single credit cards that they took away from you. Well, they just closed 7 accounts. That hurts your credit score. Yes, you have a larger limit, but it hurt to get it. While the larger limit is 30% of your credit score, the credit history is a large majority of your credit score as well. So losing those 7 accounts hurt more than gaining the extra credit limit. So your goal is to keep any old accounts, especially the ones that don't have reoccurring payments. Now, under the observation that certain low level credit cards with a reoccurring fee to it is not beneficial and you have a higher credit score. Like, for example, if you go from a credit builder credit card that has a monthly fee to it to an Amex card that has 10 times or 20 times more limit and still has a fee to it, you may dissolve the credit builder card and utilize the Amex card. Just recognize when you do that, that account is done and it is average, however many years it was open, versus the oldest account that you have. So you don't want to close out any cards that you don't have to close out. Even if it saves you money, you want to do it to save you money, but you only want to do it to save you money when you absolutely have to. Okay? Because each time you do this, it is going to reduce the average age of your credit history and it erases that credit card's credit limit from your total available credit utilization or credit limit level. So if you have a $3,000 credit card and you go get you a $7,000 credit card or $70,000 credit card with American Express, the $3,000 credit card being charged off is going to drop your credit limit $3,000. Even though you raised it $70,000, instead of it going up 70, it is offset and it's just 70. Yeah, it's a higher limit, but the account history gets sacrificed. So imagine if you had a $3,000 credit card and you had $5,000 credit cards, it's $25,000 plus that $3,000 credit card is $28,000. If you consolidated two cards and that $3,000 line of credit is now still incorporated into the other cards, but you lost one account, your credit score is going to go down because your credit limit is still the same, but the lines of credit or lines of active accounts has been reduced. So you want to make sure that you keep every account that you can active and open and long standing, and just reduce your utilization. Try to reduce payments. Reduce the cards that have revolving payments that are not you, and then you want to increase limits. Now, this is going to cause your overall utilization to shoot back up if your limits start tanking. You want to keep old non-annual fee cards open if at all possible. Annual fee cards, you might want to switch one out for another. I know American Express is charging like $650 a year, so you might want to. Some people got rid of their American Express card because they didn't want to pay that fee. But I mean, if you're paying $8 a month for a smaller card and you're capable of paying $65 a month for a larger card, pay that fee. Now, do not accept a hard pull for a minor increase. No small increases should have a hard pull. A hard inquiry can temporarily drop your credit score, and that price drop is not worth paying for a measly $500 bump. So if they're only going to bump you up a few $100, don't even worry about the credit pull. Prioritize soft pull increases first. This is going to be the exact plan that is going to be utilized to break free from the low limit traps that you've been stuck in for the longest period of time. As for a final takeaway, I want you to realize a 30-day task that fast tracks this plan. Week one, choose your target cards, whichever ones you're going to be working on. Pay their balances down under 10% and get your overall utilization under 30%. Update your income information in all of your credit card portals, and then use the online request form for your soft pull friendly targeted cards. As for the 2 to 3 times your current limit, you want to ask for 2 to 3 times your current limit. Worst they're going to say is no. Then they're going to offer you a negotiation. Accept the negotiation. Decline any requests that mandatorily require a hard pull unless the potential increase is substantial, like going from 5,000 to 15,000, going from 10,000 to 50,000. But if it's going from 1,000 to 3,000, that's all right. We'll wait. Weeks 3 and 4, use your newly increased limits lightly but regularly. Keep these cards revolving. Low utilization needs to be set for yourself so that you have the ability to increase your future automatic increases. You want to be able to set yourself up so that the automatics happen. They're gonna check you, and whether they do a soft pull or a hard pull once every 9 months is up to them. And if they do the hard pull and that leads to an automatic credit increase, that's less work that you have to do. If you start dealing with credit cards that are automatically doing credit pull scenarios, you're going to find yourself looking at which part of the year, when was your last credit hit, and 6 months after that, you're applying for a new card. Plain and simple. So now you're just focusing on once a year, when's the sweet spot to apply for a new card. But the higher your credit limits are, the more likely you're going to be approved for a card that has a lower limit than that. So if you have $20,000 worth of credit limits, you're likely to get approved for a $5,000 card as long as your utilization is low and your payments are on time for all the cards that you have. And if you got a $5,000 card to add to your $20,000 worth of total limits, you now have $25,000. A year later, that $5,000 card might bump up to $15,000, and now you got $35,000 worth of limits. With $35,000 worth of limits, it's easier to ask American Express for a $50,000 or at least a $30,000 credit card. If you're rocking a $35,000 limit, they shouldn't have a reason to offer you $20,000. But if they offered you $20,000 and added that to your $35,000, you're at $50,000. And if you're doing this with a partner that's doing all of the exact same thing, you're able to double that. Now you're going from $50,000 to $100,000 worth of combined credit between the two of y'all. That's the kind of stuff where you can buy a car on your credit card. That's the kind of stuff where you can get the down payment for the house just by charging it to the credit card. That's the kind of stuff where you start getting yourself closer and closer to that black card status. But it requires discipline. Now, this plan works because it's based on understanding what banks are actually looking for, not just rolling the dice and hoping for the best. A responsible, reliable, and profitable customer, because they make money off of every time you use the card. And they make money from the vendor every time you use the card. Okay. So them giving you the card, even though you're not dealing with all the interest rates because you're leaving $2 on the card, they're still benefiting because if you paid 50 grand worth of stuff, somebody paid the usage fees for that card, whether it's you or the vendor that sold you the item. So the more you have, the better it is for them, the more you have to spend. And recognizing that in the near future, that a lot of these credit cards are going to be locked at a fixed rate of 10%. The more credit cards you dive into now, as far as limit increases and requests, the more likely that you're going to have a better footing later when those credit cards are limited to 10% and they're strict on the people who already have bad credit or a low credit. Individuals that are under 700 are probably going to have it harder to come by to get credit cards in the future, which, might I add, all of this makes perfect sense for you because once you get yourself set up, you and your partner, you and your homie, y'all get yourself set up, and y'all's credit limits are high, utilizations are low. You have at least one card that doesn't have an authorized user on it. That card is like a 20, 30, $40,000 card. This is where you can put your child on your card as an authorized user. That payment history helps your child. If you've got a credit card that has existed longer than your child has lived, your 18-year-old child with a 20-year line of credit will have a better credit score than you would have had when you were at that age. And each credit card with a low utilization and on time payments for 20 years for a 21-year-old, that child is going to have a better credit score than somebody who's just starting off with a brand new, just got it last week, secure credit card for a student account. And while, yeah, they typically try to start you off somewhere around the middle, it's not likely that your first credit score number is going to be 800. Yeah, it might be around 750. And if you do it wisely, you can help your kid hit that 800 or 825. And if they don't mess up their credit score, if you taught them financial responsibility between 8 and 18, then they should be in a position where their credit score is high enough and even higher so that they can qualify for massive loans. You got an 800 credit score, it's easy to ask for 100 grand. If you got $200,000 worth of credit cards, it's easy to ask for 200 grand in a cash loan, long as you have the income to show that you can pay it back, right? If you're doing a business model and you're tied to a business with revolving income, it's easy to ask for money when you have collateral. But if you have no collateral, it's hard to do. Going into real estate, having a 20-year on-time payment history at 22 makes you look more trustworthy than an individual that has had an on-time payment history for the past 12 months. This is going to be about proving your credit worthiness through strategic actions. So, no hard inquiries that are unnecessary, no damage to your score that is unnecessary, just pure positive results. That's the kind of stuff that will help you guys make yourselves more successful. Now, it's going to be your turn. If you commit to the following plan, and I'm going to be putting a lot of this stuff into the membership so that you guys have more information on it. So make sure that you come back and drop comments into the comment section with your success stories. Tell us which cards that you targeted and what kind of increases that you achieved. Your stories will inspire someone else who is feeling stuck in their ability to build their credit and their credit limits. Also, it builds a network of information because we start realizing which credit card companies are easier to get those credit limits from versus the ones that are hard. It learning from the efforts of others, sometimes learning from the mistakes of others, allows for the next generation to have a better chance at being more successful. One of the dreams that a lot of people have is an unfounded dream of the desire to be a trailblazer. The trailblazer is the person that has the hardest time creating this path. And everyone else that comes behind that person only has it as easy as the first person struggled. It is what it is. Okay. So the harder it was for you, the more stopgaps you're going to create. And the easier it is for the next person is because you solved all the problems you had the first time you went through there. Now everyone that comes behind you have an easier way of being successful. Now, yeah, what does that got to do with you? Not much. But if you're trying to build a legacy and you're taking my information and you're utilizing it to improve your own credit score, which improves your credit, improve your credit limits, which improves your credit score, which improves your qualifications to get a house. You're able to show your children the results of your efforts because you went from renting to owning. You went from financing cars to owning cars. You went from borrowing against the stone to having extra money lying around. You're showing the results of your efforts. Then you're teaching your children how to do the same thing. They learn financial responsibility. Your financial responsibility rolls over to them when you add them on as authorized users to your accounts. A lot of times when you pass away, not all of your credit cards actually get charged off. If you're the kind of person that has 10 or 20 cards and your cards are being paid down, the business is still running, everything to that effect. Your kids could potentially take over your payments for you in your older days. Pay all of those cards off. Those cards are now sitting at zero balances right now, but those are high limit credit cards that have never been charged off. As an authorized user on the account, you benefit from the existence of these accounts, even if you're not using those accounts. Even if they run zero balances with no payments after the person dies and you're doing it on your own with your own line of credit, you've got 200 grand from a dead person sitting on your credit limit, and then you've got your own 200 grand that you're utilizing on your own. That's 400 grand combined. Only when a death certificate is served to the financial institutions do they usually close those accounts down. So if that account is zero balance and 60 years old, you've got a 60-year-old account on your credit card, on your credit score. You're likely to roll over certain things. Now, keep in mind, once those institutions realizes that the account holder should no longer exist and they start charging off a lot of those accounts will come off your credit score because you're the authorized user. It's not going to have a hard hit against your line of credit, but it will negatively impact your credit score and it will negatively impact your overall credit limit. So to detach yourself from those limits, you want to establish a level of credit that is satisfactory for you to operate on your own. If you were doing this with a buddy and y'all were building yourselves up, y'all build yourselves up to a self-sustainable position and then take off the authorized users off of the account and run whatever it is that you have. If y'all were going to come together and build a $40,000 worth of credit limit and then separate, and now y'all both got $20,000 worth of credit limit, now you can run that run on your own. It benefits you in a way because you're not responsible if they go bankrupt, but it also benefits you in a way to stay together if y'all are both budgeting the money correctly and y'all are keeping your cards low, right? So if you guys put your information into the comment section and let us know which cards that you tried, what amounts you tried for, which ones you got, that lets us know. The world of credit can feel rigid, especially with the new 10% that's about to hit, a mandatory 10% max that's about to hit. But with the right strategies, you hold all of the power towards your future success. Now, what you guys need to do is you need to go get the card limits that you believe that you deserve. And it requires you to do it strategically. This is not an overnight process, but it will require diligence and discipline. So that's all I've got for you guys for tonight. I want to start off by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. You guys make sure you like and subscribe as y'all walk out of the show tonight. You can also come back and rewatch the show if you missed it. We typically start at the top of the hour. Well, we've been here for 2 hours. So we would have started at the top of 2 hours ago, which would have been 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time or 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. So make sure that you guys come back tomorrow because we got a lot of information tomorrow about different countries around the world that we're going to be living and investing in. I do believe tomorrow we're going to be talking about Turkey because last week we talked about Hungarians. Um, I give you guys this information to make you guys higher value men. So, fellas, if y'all take this information and utilize it to find the things in your life that you can control, like your credit limits, change the things you do not like, and then navigate around the things that you cannot control, you can find yourselves having a better life. Ladies, while this is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can improve yourself to become higher value women. All you have to do is figure out what your 20-year plan is, reverse engineer that to what you have to do today to get there that doesn't require you to rely on somebody else as a dependent. Proactively keep your eyes and ears open so that you can entertain the possibility of finding persons with the characteristics and mindsets and decision making skills that in lines with your goals. Finding somebody that meshes with your goals allows for you to partner up with an individual that can head in the same direction as you. If y'all are working on this together, y'all can capitalize on this in a faster process. As I explained to you guys before, if you're only adding one credit card per year to your credit limit and you're getting a credit increase on one credit card per year every 6 months. If your partner is doing it offsettingly, you're ending up with two limit increases a year and two new credit cards a year between two people. But that is each person has four increases a year with only two hard hits at max, which increases your credit limits just that much faster. One of the other things that you look into is partnering institutions. Which financial credit card companies work together? If you've got a credit card company that you owe money to, you don't want to apply to them. That's a guaranteed no. You don't want to apply to any of their subsidiary companies. That's a guaranteed no. These are ways that you can navigate financial institutions, work your way on those charge offs through getting credit increases without getting unnecessary hard hits. You can do no ding credit applications that will tell you no without hurting your credit score. If they tell you yes and they're going to give you a hard hit, you're at least getting a line of credit from that hard hit. But for every hard hit that gets a high credit limit, it's worth it because the 30 or 40 points that you get from the credit increase offsets the 1 point loss from the hard hit. But you still only want to get two hard hits a year. Okay. This is something that's very important. So now that you guys know what you guys need to do to make yourself successful, it is up to you to take action on this. We're we've improved your FICO score in August and September. We've improved your business skills in November and December. We've improved your investment opportunities since May, June, and July of last year throughout January, February, and March of this year. Now we're improving your credit score. Everything that you need to do to buy a house besides negotiating how to buy a house, we've covered it on the show so far. Everything that you need to do to buy a car outside of negotiating how to buy a new car, we've covered it on this show so far. And the bills and executive orders that are coming out from Donald Trump, is further reinforcing your abilities to succeed. With new FICO scores, programs to gauge your FICO score, and new law that allows you to get first pick on the house before the big business swoops it up. You are finding yourselves with more and more opportunities right now to go from paying $3,000 a month for a renting apartment to paying $1,500 a month for a house. You could be renting a $3,000 a month for a four-bedroom apartment, or $1,500 a month for a five-bedroom, two-story house with a backyard and a driveway. The difference is the amount of space you have. The difference is the amount of freedom you have. The difference is the amount of money you save. One of the questions we had yesterday was how long does it take before you financially benefit from buying a house? Instantaneously. If you can buy a house that is less than the price of the rent you're paying, you're already saving at the beginning. If you take the monthly payments that you put on your rent and put it on your house, you're overpaying on your house. You're building on the equity faster. You're taking down your revolving credit balance faster, which boosts your credit score up faster. Then what you're looking at is, since you have that extra equity in your house because you overpaid on the principal, you now have the capabilities when necessary to take home economic lines of credit out on the house, which is like a second mortgage, and you can utilize that. So if you had a car that wasn't paid off, you can take out a home economic line of credit and go and pay off the car, and then now you don't have that 14 or 18 or 22% interest rate on that car. You just have the 8% or 7% or 6% line of credit on the house, which the money still got to be paid from somewhere, but it is cheaper to get it from the house at 6 or 7% than it is to get it on the car at 14%. You're saving money. And now you got the green title to the car. Likewise, if you had a family emergency that was a legitimate emergency, not somebody going to jail for doing something stupid, you have the ability to leverage whatever available line of credit you have in your house to pay for that scenario. Whether it's buying a new roof, whether it's repairing something that broke in the house, whether it's fixing the car. If you have something that needs to be fixed on a car and it's expensive, paying off a bunch of credit cards to boost your credit score up, whatever it is. Well, you could be getting the home economic line of credit so that you can put it into a brokerage account. And while the house is 6 or 7%, the brokerage account is 10 to 18%. If you're rocking an 18% brokerage account after taxes, you're getting 17 or 16% off of your brokerage account after taxes, and your house is 6%. That's like 11 or 12% profit. And the principal stays there. You can either reinvest the dividends, or you could take the dividends and put them on the house and pay the house off faster. And anything going towards the interest of the house is a tax deduction. You can bypass a lot of taxation just by paying on your mortgage, which allows you to pay down that home economic line of credit that you put down, paying it down faster, which gives you then the capabilities of taking another 50 grand and putting it back up there. Crazy, I know, but you can capitalize on your own success once you start boosting your credit score. And if you've got a pretty massive brokerage account, you can find yourself borrowing against the brokerage account and paying off the house. But it depends on what the interest rates are on a brokerage account. It might be higher than the interest rates on the house. But if you want a deed that's free and clear, you pay off the house with the brokerage account, and now you're taking the dividends from the brokerage account to pay the brokerage account. That's still paying off a loan, which is still a tax deduction. But the house no longer has a lien on it, and neither does the car. Now your debt is paid for by your portfolio, and your portfolio is leveraged against your debt. That's one of the last steps to living life like a billionaire, living life like a multimillionaire. But it requires you to take the first steps and change financially the things that you need to change to see yourself in that successful position. Otherwise, you're forever going to be going from paycheck to paycheck, borrowing against a stone every time you take an unexpected day off, go to work late, get off from work early. And sometimes these situations don't even have nothing to do with you. The boss cuts you because the labor's high. The boss tells you don't clock in until later because the labor's high. And now you're not making as much money in your household because your job doesn't have enough availability for you. Just like everybody who's being furloughed right now. those businesses are closed because their clientele is gone. So those businesses that are closed, those employees don't even have a job, and they're not going to make that up because they're not government agents. You have to be able to budget for all of these things. When you plan for a life of success, you end up with that life of success, but you have to be diligent about making the changes that will get you there. So while today helps you get yourself better credit limits, and last year was helping you get better credit scores, and last month was getting out of debt and bypassing these shutdowns, and last year in October was doing the same thing. If you take all of these shows and put them together, you should go from living from paycheck to paycheck to having a shit ton of extra money on the side. And if you've got more than one income coming in and you're capable of living off of one of those incomes, the other income can be reinvested. If you're in a relationship where you got multiple incomes and they got multiple incomes, y'all should still be living off of one group of income, one person's income, and the other half of the income should be reinvested. And then if you take my advice and you start doing those girlfriend contracts, the fiance contract, the wedding contract, alongside the prenuptial agreements, and you're putting in clauses like, look, we were just discussing non-disclosure agreements where they can't talk about the relationship, and then no disparagement where they can't talk shit about the relationship outside of their First Amendment rights to freedom of speech. They cannot say unnecessary negative things about the relationship, and they can't make unnecessary complaints about the relationship. Now, those types of disclosures do not prevent them from reporting harm. So if you beat their ass, they still can report that. But in the divorce, your partner can't say you ain't shit and you're worthless because those are non-necessary negative comments, right? Your First Amendment freedom of speech, you don't want to be in a relationship anymore. One of the reasons why, probably because your partner cheated. Valid complaints. But you're a loser comments that a lot of times is said during divorce is unnecessary negative comments that violates the terms of the agreement. And if there's a large penalty for that violation, that person's alimony or whatever could be eaten up with the breach of contract. If y'all start paying attention to these things, get these contracts together. We got them in the membership. Get these contracts together, work them out, add those no disparagement clauses in there. And I'm going to update them. And now that we're talking about them, and make sure that I have a template of some no disparagement clauses and no non disclosure agreements in those prenuptial agreement kind of contracts. And then take that template, tune it to your city and state, then bring it to an attorney because you're not just taking what I gave you and using it, but you can take a template of what you think will work for you, bring it to an attorney, get it legalized. And then whenever you find somebody that's worth investing in psychologically, emotionally, and financially, you've got a contract to sign. Now, ladies, y'all can take this information and do the exact same thing. Because y'all alpha boss ladies that are making $100,000 a year or more, y'all alpha boss ladies is 50, 60, $70,000 a year. Y'all don't want no broke ass dude taking half of y'all shit because the divorce laws do not exclusively benefit women. It only benefits the women that date men that make more money than them. It is non-gender bias. So at the end of the day, whoever makes the most money would have to pay the person with the least money alimony. So ladies, if y'all are alpha boss ladies and y'all want to find a dude that loves and respects you for who you are, not riding waves of your riches, you're going to be doing the same shit. You're gonna have a boyfriend contract. You're gonna make sure that this dude's not wasting all the gas out of your car, driving other bitches around. You're gonna make sure that he's contributing whatever he's supposed to contribute financially towards the resources that are in the house. That if upon marriage, if y'all are gonna agree that you get to keep the ring, even if you don't want to marry him, and stuff to that effect. And you know what I mean? Y'all can negotiate these things. Y'all negotiate the improvements of the relationship, which gives y'all a foundational setting of where y'all plan to be. And every year, because we buy stuff on a regular basis, categorize everything that we buy, and either every 6 months or every year, you add the new stuff that we bought onto the contract, making sure that if I bought it for you and you're going to keep it when you leave, that it's in the list of your shit. If you bought it for me and I'm going to keep it when you leave, it's in the list of my shit. If you bought me a dog, you're not going to take it back because you don't like me anymore. If it's mine, it's mine. They're not joint custody. You bought it for me. It's a gift for me. It's mine. Right? Doesn't matter if you have an attachment to it. What matters is that we agreed that you bought that for me. That goes in a list of things that I keep if you leave. And you just update that contract every 6 months or every year. The more stuff y'all buy for each other, the more often you update the list. And then, even better, Get it notarized because you both can sign it, get it notarized. A lot of banks notarize these documents for free. You can pay $10 on an Amscon, but get it notarized each time that you guys update the contract and keep it in a filing cabinet so that y'all have the most recent one in the collection with all the other ones. When you start getting towards the engagements and the marriage, and y'all are used to annually updating the dating contract, which is a division of assets, by the time you get to the marriage aspects of things, you've got the divisions of assets down. The prenup is going to be not less, just a tad bit more strict. Like upon X, Y, and Z circumstance that breaches this contract. But without the breach of contract, if we divide for any reason, this is what we get. All the way down to any assets in the trust. And you want to make sure that you keep these things under control. Now, anything that can cause a breach of contract, you yourself want to remember that and make sure that you don't breach those contracts because all of the contracts that y'all listed over the course of y'all relationship, if it can be breached by a specific action and you perform that action, you left yourself vulnerable after all of that preparation that you did. So I know a lot of women are like, oh no, we're going to put cheating in there. Right. You're going to put cheating in there, then you're going to be the one that's going to be doing something you ain't got no business doing, and you're going to be feeling bad about yourself. A lot of times, y'all need to have that financial agreement, that separation of powers to be exclusively to if you leave, you take whatever you want. If I leave, I take whatever I want, and that is it. We agree to what we're going to take before anything happens. And we can put a clause in there that if you destroy my shit upon leaving, that the monetary value of the things that you bought, the cost of replacing it, you're responsible for that. So if all of my stuff you decided you want to set it on fire, take your stuff and leave, yeah, that's fine, but you owe me that now. You guys got to set all of this stuff up, set it up now before you become financially successful, so that when you're financially successful, if you have somebody there with you, that y'all are not dogging each other out, that y'all are not mistreating one another, that y'all are not using or abusing one another. Y'all got scenarios like till death do us part. But in every insurance policy, if the wife is implicated in your death, she don't get shit. Well, shit, if you got a trust that says that upon your death, all of your assets goes to the trust, she still don't get shit. If she's written into the trust as the widow, where her percentage is fixed, it doesn't increase upon your death, she ain't getting nothing extra because you died. If she was getting $2,000 a month out of the trust, that's all the fuck she's gonna get after you die. You know what I mean? If you capped it out and said, well, we're gonna give her $5,000 a month out of the trust after you die, then that's all the hell that she's gonna get every month for the rest of her life until she dies. You know what I mean? If you cap that thing, if you say, well, upon divorce, the the husband or wife gets shifted down to an X status, and the X status gets a smaller percentage. You go from getting 5,000 to getting 1,000. It discourages you from getting a divorce because the trust is written in stone and the prenup is written in stone. And every other contract, like Michael said, is added into the prenup as an addendum that shows that over the history of this relationship, we have consistently agreed, and none of these things are going to change. Doesn't matter if I cheat. It doesn't matter if you cheat. It doesn't matter if we start boxing each other out like Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather. What matters is that if we part ways, this is how the shit will be divided. When you put it up like that, that's the type of ironclad contract where it doesn't matter. Oh, I'm going to take everything from you now. No, the fuck you're not, because you agreed that you're only going to take this stuff, and you agreed to it every year for the past X number of years because we've got all the contracts. See how that works? Now, for all of you that are trying to be higher value individuals, whether you're higher value men or higher value women, you are not going to find yourself going from being broke to being financially successful and then getting involved with a partner that's going to take your whole life's work from you because you locked that down before they even got started. I want y'all to remember that as we get into tomorrow's show, because we're going to be talking about different countries around the world that we can invest in. So, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will be seeing you guys tomorrow night at close to the top of the hour, around about 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, probably 11:20. But I'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.